Hey guys, in 2011, after the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, the nuclear reactors were shut down. Obviously the one in Fukushima was shut down, but also the others were shut down as well as precaution so they could have some safety checks and make sure that they were okay. And as a result, we had some electricity shortages around the place. So the government asked people in Japan to reduce how much electricity they used. So at that time we saw lots of examples of that. So for example, in summer, businesses were encouraged to put up the setting for their air conditioning. So where they might normally have 26, they put it up to 28 or sometimes 29. A lot of shops and businesses reduced the electricity they were using for lighting. So you'd go into convenience stores and you'd find that they'd removed every second fluorescent bulb around the room. So they were working with half the amount of fluorescent bulbs that they'd normally have. So we saw lots of examples of it, and there was lots of talk about it at the time and constant reminders that we should be trying to reduce how much power we used. And very shortly after, Western Japan and Eastern Japan are on two separate grids. And very shortly after, Western Japan's electrical power supply system was back to normal. So they could continue to use power as before the disaster, but nobody did. It was sort of a community effort thing. It was sort of the people in the Tohoku area in the Eastern Japan are suffering, so we should suffer too. So people continued to do it even after on the Western grid. Once it was returned normal, there was no reason to keep doing those things to try and reduce power. There was reasons, of course, but not the reasons that we'd had previously, and that was that there wasn't enough power to go around. So, once they restored everything back to normal in Western Japan, there was enough power to go around, so everybody could go back to what they were doing before. But a lot of businesses didn't, and then Eastern Japan was the same. Slowly they got everything back online again, except Fukushima, of course. But there was no need, again, there was enough power to go around, so there's no need to reduce power for that reason. But interestingly, here we are 7 years later, and a lot of the companies just never went back to what they were doing before. So the reason for this video is to explain how sometimes in Japan in summer, and summer in Japan's pretty hot, southern and central Japan are pretty hot. And this year Nagoya had its highest recorded temperature for 120 years or something like that, 40 point something. And it's normal central and southern Japan in summer, usually mid to late 30s every day, and quite often at night the temperature won't drop below 30 quite often. So it's pretty hot for a few months every summer. But what you'll find is that quite often you'll go to offices where you'll walk in and it'll be really hot. It'll be really hot. And these offices quite often have continued with the same practices that they put in place after the Tohoku disaster. And we know one office in particular that we go to now and again, where you'll walk in the door and without fail, the owner, you walk in the door and the owner greets you, and then the first thing he says is, "It's hot, isn't it? Atsui desu ne, atsui desu ne." And you look up and he's got on the wall, here it is here, on the wall he's got his air conditioner, and next to his air conditioner he has a clock that has the temperature and the humidity shown on it. And usually his air conditioner is turned off, and you'll see on the clock what the temperature is, and usually it'll be 29 or 30, and the humidity will be 58%, 55%, something like that, which is pretty intense for an office, pretty intense for an office. And that's him every year. He does that every year, and every time you walk in the door he goes on about how hot it is, but he doesn't turn on his aircon. And this is quite common, and you'll meet people, particularly businesses and offices where the customer doesn't come in. So a place like a shop, like a mobile phone shop or something like that, usually you don't find this, because their customers come in and they want the customers to be comfortable, so they continue to shop and to do whatever business they're doing. So usually businesses that that have customers come into them usually don't do that so much. But when you get a business or an office that doesn't have customers come in, like this guy, he goes and sees his customers. So usually customers don't come into his shop, and that's where you'll often find it's really hot. So if you happen to go into an office like that, you'll experience it yourself. Or what you'll sometimes hear is Japanese people telling you, you know, you'll say to them, "It's hot, isn't it?" "Yeah, yeah." And then I'll tell you, "Oh, it's really hot at work." And really, how hot is it at work? "Oh, usually it's 28 degrees, 29 degrees, you know, and where do you work?" "Oh, I work in an office, but the boss has the setting at 28 degrees or 29 degrees. And obviously there's enough supply to go around now, and there has been for, you know, 5-6 years, so there's no reason for that from that point of view. So the only reasons that remain are either the owners of the business are particularly green, you know, they're particularly motivated to save the environment and save energy, or they're stingy. And in most cases we find it's the later. Most cases we find it's the stinginess. You know, the guy that we visit, we know for a fact he's got a habit of turning off lights as soon as people leave rooms and things like that, and there's other things about what he does, you know, the way he uses paper and things like that, that suggest that it's not about the environment. One reason is he drives a pretty big car that guzzles a lot of fuel. That's a bit of an example of that. So when it comes to that, he's quite happy, but when it comes to the business, he's keen to reduce costs. So again, this is just one of those mildly interesting videos for some people, and also a bit of a heads up for some other people, that if you come to Japan, particularly if you come here on business or you come here to work, there's a good chance, you know, an example might be, for example, an English school. You know, lots of people come here to teach English, and if you had an English school, what you might find is that the classrooms might be maybe 26 degrees, but the teacher's office might be, you know, 29 or 30 degrees. It wouldn't be unusual. 28's probably on average, about 28 is about average, which if the humidity's low enough isn't too bad, but if the humidity's still up there, it can be pretty hot. So it's a funny one, isn't it? Before Tohoku, we were sort of talking about this last night, and before Tohoku we couldn't think of any examples that were like this. You know, there may well have been, of course, there may well have been some places around the place, some offices around the place that were consistently hot in summer, but it seems to be that it's since Tohoku a lot of the policies change, and because this is what happens in Japan, changes tend to happen from above, and then so you can imagine how the government told everybody to do this, you know, please do this, and it was a big campaign at the time on television. And they actually removed all ads from TV for quite a long time after the disaster, and replaced them with public notices like this telling us to, you know, conserve energy. We don't have enough power to go around, so please reduce the use of power and turn the setting up on your air conditioners and that sort of thing. And it's possible that nobody ever undid that instruction, you know. At no stage did the government ever say, okay, we've got enough electricity to go around now, go back to what you were doing before. No one's been told that. So, you know, it's possible that's sort of where we've got stuck. And because Japan being Japan, these people that are working in offices where it's 29 degrees or 30 degrees aren't likely to complain. You know, it's, as we've talked about many times before, complaining about such a thing in Japan would be considered a sign of weak character, among other things. So it's just the way it is. So if you come to Japan and end up working in an office environment somewhere, you might find it's a little warmer than you'd prefer. And if you're wondering why, this could be why. Anyway, there it was, just a quick funny one. More videos coming soon.